Hi. I found something in my backyard. I think it might be bones. Like human bones? I don't know what to do. Yes. I'm in Fort Myers, Florida. I've got a pretty big backyard. It's the size of a small field almost. My friend was out there walking his dog when he came across them. It looks like a few bones are sticking out of a pile of logs.
Kelly Brockman, a student at Flagler College in St. Augustine, Florida, is asking around to find any clue regarding the whereabouts of her best friend and roommate, Amy Blount. As evening falls, she decides to approach the police.
Why don't you take us through your day, Miss Kelly?
When I woke up this morning, Amy's bed was empty. I didn't really think much of it at first. I mean, as a college senior, a night out stretching into the morning isn't like surprising or anything. But then, as the hours went by, and she missed all her classes, I don't know. My uneasiness started to grow. It's not typical of Amy. My mind couldn't stop replaying the night before. We had been out partying, dancing at that bar downtown like we'd done 100 times before. I wasn't feeling great, so I left early, but Amy stayed behind. I remember she had her eyes fixed on Sean Nolan, a guy she had a crush on. He was the last person seen with Amy. So I knew I had to find Sean to figure out Amy's whereabouts. When I found Sean, he looked like a complete mess. Still hungover, barely awake. It took him a minute to even get his thoughts together. Eventually, he started talking about the night. He said he and Amy left the bar around 2 a.m., went for a walk. At first, they were having fun. Everything was fine, but then they got into this fight while waiting for a taxi, and Amy just walked off. I asked him what the fight was about, and he just shrugged. He said it was something stupid, something he couldn't even remember. I mean, seriously, he couldn't remember. They fought. Amy got so mad she stormed off, and Sean, he just took the taxi, left her alone at 2 a.m. I couldn't believe it. How could he not check on her? How could he just leave her there? And what was the fight even about?
Police have no evidence to suggest that Amy simply hasn't come home after a night out, and hence cannot take an official missing persons report. As 3 days go by, still without any signs of Amy, an official investigation is opened and Sean is called in for questioning.
Could you tell us what happened that night, Sean?
Well, Amy and I left the bar around 2 a.m. We decided to take a walk. We were having fun roaming around. After a while, I went to use the payphone to call a cab. When I turned around, Amy wasn't there.
Is that everything, Sean? When you talked to Amy's friends, you told them something a little different, didn't you? You said you and Amy got into a fight, and she stormed off. Can you explain why your story changed, Sean?
I wasn't thinking straight when I talked to them. Everything was just so messed up. I might have gotten mixed up. But I swear, I'm telling you everything I remember. It's all just... it's a blur. I didn't do anything to her, I wouldn't.
Detectives locate and speak to the taxi driver who picked up Sean the night in question. He confirms that Sean was alone and sleeping on a bench when he picked him up, and that there were no signs of Amy. 2 weeks pass by and no new leads come in. The Florida agency puts up a reward of $1,000 for any information regarding Amy. At this time, a tip comes in by a man named Timothy Gatchell, stating he had seen Amy the night in question. He states that he saw her get into an older model car, a Camaro or a Firebird, with 2 people inside it. To ensure the truth of Timothy's statement, detectives convince him to take a lie detector test, which he passes. Enriched with this new piece of information, detectives restart their investigation. Even after searching all the cars in the area matching the description, detectives find no new leads. The investigation gets stuck at neutral, heading nowhere. On New Year's Day, 1991, a 911 operator gets an important call.
I found something in my backyard. I think it might be bones. Like human bones?
Police suspect that the body is Amy's, and the dental records confirm it. An autopsy revealed she had been stabbed 5 times. Her body also displayed bruises on her head and shoulder, indicating some kind of violent struggle had taken place. Their family is finally allowed to grieve. Detectives speak with the property owner, who is open to the conversation and is not a suspect currently given the vast size of the backyard. He states that he rents 2 mobile homes near the crime scene and had actually had problems with one of the previous tenants, named Timothy Gatchell. If you do not remember, Timothy Gatchell was a key eyewitness in the case who had reportedly seen Amy getting into a car the night of her disappearance. Detectives rush to the mobile home in which Timothy used to reside in and conduct a luminol test, which is a test used to discover traces of blood. The trailer lights up, showing blood everywhere. Even a floral print sheet similar to the one which was used to wrap the body is found in the bedroom. They also find a sheet with the name Toby and a number on it. Police call Toby, who states that he is a friend of Timothy's and had been with him the night Amy disappeared. He is brought in for a formal interrogation.
Could you tell us what happened the night in question, Toby?
Tim and I were bar hopping that night. We were driving around, and that is when we saw Amy, walking alone. Tim was the one who noticed her first. He told me to pull up and let him out of the car. So I did. He went up to her, started talking, and then they walked back to the car together. I don't think she knew Tim that well, but she seemed okay with it. After that, we drove back to Tim's place. I went in to drink a beer. Soon enough, Tim started hitting on her. He was putting the moves on her, and she wasn't into it. I could tell she was uncomfortable. I didn't want to get involved, so I went to the bathroom. When I came out, I just left.
Toby, if that is the truth, you knew Amy was with you and Tim that night. Why didn't you come to us sooner?
When I saw those posters around town, I recognized her. I asked Tim about it, and he told me he took her back downtown and saw her talking to some guys in a Camaro. So I told Tim that he needs to report this to the police, and I figured it would be alright if he spoke with you guys.
Detectives go to Timothy Gatchell's place to arrest him. He is found sitting on his front porch and tells the detectives that he was waiting for them.
Tim, we need to talk about what really happened. You've already told us part of the story, but there's still a lot that doesn't add up. Let's go over the details of the night again from the beginning.
Me and Toby were bar hopping that night when we saw Amy all by herself. I went up to her, talked to her a bit, and then we took her back to my place. I tried to come on to her, you know, but she didn't want anything to do with me. It made me mad, so I told her, "This is my house." I was really pissed, so I took the property owner's truck and drove her back to town. When we stopped at a red light, she got out of the truck. When I looked back, I saw her getting into this Camaro.
That is not the truth, is it, Tim? Because the truck you mentioned has 3 flat tires. Tim, how did her body end up buried in your backyard?
I don't know.
Do you think you killed her?
I don't know. It looks like I did.
Walk us through what you remember.
I remember kneeling over her. Then I'm on top of her, and she's holding a steak knife. I thought she was going to stab me, so I grabbed the knife. After that, it's all kind of blank. I feel like I blacked out. I have blacked out before. Next thing I remember, I'm holding the knife, and there's blood. Blood coming out of her mouth. She wasn't moving. I went to the barn, got a shovel, and dug a hole. I wrapped her in a sheet, carried her out, and put her in the grave. I said a prayer, asked God to forgive me for what I did, and to accept her into heaven. Then I covered her up and put logs over the dirt.
Don't you feel better now, Tim? Getting all this off your chest?
I don't know. I guess so.